A Giants podcast for Giants fans
by Giants fans.
From the offseason to the wins and the losses, it's time to take one Giant step.
Welcome inside One Giant Step, a week 4 preview edition of One Giant Step at Shaun Morash, at Bryce Gelman on Twitter and X. And I'm calling it a week 1 edition of One Giant Step. Why is it week 1?
It's a new season, my friend.
It's
a new season.
It is a new season. It feels like a new beginning. And why? Well, it's our first podcast recording since Jaxson Dart has been named the starting quarterback for the New York Football Giants. And there's a bunch of avenues we'll open up here, Bryce. And then, of course, we'll do our usual stuff previewing a game with the Chargers. But this is way bigger than the game, even though it ties into the game. This is about an organization that has been a nonstop transition. And what some will call the last gasp for Brian Daboll could be accurate. What others will call a needed move for an organization, I think that's undeniable, but some people are scared. Some people are pumped. I think most of us are overwhelmingly intrigued and excited, but let's break it all down now. The team is 0-3, and for 2 of those 3 games, they've scored less than 10 points. Now, you want to insert that they should have scored more than 10 had they had a kicker, maybe gotten at least a 13. Fine, still not good enough. Doesn't matter. Not getting good enough quarterback play, except for versus the Dallas Cowboys. But the Dallas Cowboys have now spent 3 straight games where everybody looks like a good offense versus the Dallas Cowboys defense. Yeah. So Brian Daboll makes this decision. And I think it's a decision that is made, and he made it known in his press conference, I'm making this call. I think it is a decision that he's making with 2 things in mind. I think the team is 0-3. I think that he's definitely feeling some heat. But I also think he's not making this decision if Jaxson Dart isn't ready to play either, if that makes sense. And I think that we're kind of getting lost, Bryce, in that in between of, Daboll's just doing this to save his job. Yeah, I mean, there's part of that, but I also think he's doing it because Jaxson Dart is ready.
He earned that quarterback 2 position on his own. We talked about it before the season. He won it. And Russell Wilson just gave you something that I think makes this such an obvious move. Like, if Russell Wilson doesn't throw 2 picks last week and look absolutely atrocious, and this happened, okay, I understand that. But could Jaxson Dart do any worse? Like, realistically, could he be any worse?
He could, but he's going to add a different element. And let's just – the thing about Russell Wilson, and I went back today, actually, before the Evan and Tiki show, because Evan had me pull some audio as far as – remember the quote at the, I don't know if it's the owners meeting, the general manager meeting, whatever it was, where Brian Daboll said he watched every single one of Russell Wilson's throws through his career. Remember, we had fun with that quote? So I went back and I listened to that little, like, scrum, we'll call it, with reporters, where he said that answer. And the answer before, I actually think, was more telling when he talked about what went into signing Russell Wilson at this time. Remember, this is pre-draft in April. And he said one of the things that stuck out the most to him with Russell Wilson, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said something along these lines. He knows what to do with the football. He doesn't turn the football over. Okay, that's an important thing that Brian Daboll saw, and what attracted him was like, hey, at least, you know what? He's going to make smart decisions with the football. This team lost a game in overtime versus the Dallas Cowboys where Russell Wilson made some silly decisions with the football, even after having that great game. And then just inexcusable decisions and turnovers in the last game. So if the one big positive outside of the deep ball that Brian Daboll found in Russell Wilson is now gone, where Russell Wilson is making really crappy decisions with the football, well, that throws out everything that Brian Daboll had done and discussed with Russell Wilson. So let's just put that there, put a pin in it. They also drafted Jaxson Dart with the idea he would sit a long time. And he came in and he surprised them. He surprised, the reporters that are in the building. The quote-unquote aura about him was off the charts. And then in the practices, you saw him get better. Forget the preseason games we watched on TV. The practices, every game, like, wow, this kid's got it. He's got something different about it. I remember being there with the Evan and Tiki show, and we got to interview him. And even the way, he shook it. There is that presence that people keep talking about. There's like a certain, it's got to show up in the field, but there's a certain it factor that resonated with the locker room, resonated with the team. And Connor Hughes was on our show yesterday. I'm saying yesterday, depending on when you're taping this, on Tuesday on Evan and Tiki, and he said flat out, had there actually been a quarterback competition this August, Jaxson Dart would have beaten Russell Wilson out. But the Giants basically had made a deal with Russell Wilson. You're going to start the year. That's how impressive and how good he was, and he played well in the preseason games. That also doesn't mean that Jaxson Dart is going to suddenly come in here and win Offensive Rookie of the Year, light the world on fire, and they're going to be the Jaden Daniels Commanders and turn this thing around. I think
Dude, he's got pretty good odds to win.
I know.
It's like, what, plus 700? That's absurd.
Bryce,
3 weeks. I
Bryce,
get it, but like that's a little insane.
All I'm saying is I think people need to understand there's two. We don't have to go to extremes here. The Giants can be a better football team with Jaxson Dart using most of the field, not just throwing deep balls or bust. And you live with some of the turnovers he's going to inevitably have as a rookie, because guess what? Russell Wilson is committing those turnovers anyway. So while this might be job preservation, I think it's also best for the football team. And I think people are struggling. And I guess I'm also responding to a lot of the negative that I'm seeing reaction to Dart starting. I want to make that clear. If you're really excited and positive, this isn't directed at you. But I think two things can be true in this case, right? And that's just kind of my stance right now on Jaxson Dart being named the starter.
Dude, I wish that we were not in lockstep on this, because it would make for a better podcast. But I'm too authentic. And like, I'm not going to take another side just for the sake of entertainment. There is no reason why Jaxson Dart shouldn't be starting. And there are a multitude of reasons why. We agree. The fact that it's not just, we get it. We understand the fact that Brian Dable and Joe Shane's jobs are on the line. We get that. No one is disputing that. But the fact that Jaxson Dart is playing is not because of just that. I certainly think that plays a factor. I think we'd agree on that. Like obviously we understand. And maybe that's pushed them to do it a week earlier or 2 weeks earlier than they'd like to. But at the end of the day, Jaxson Dart has done enough to earn that spot. He's done enough in the preseason. In practices, as you said, I was at one of the joint practices with the Jets. He looked very good. He looked very competent. And you just mentioned that from Connor Hughes. I didn't know that. That's another thing. So I think that this is the right move at the end of the day. There are a few things encapsulated here. And this is all encompassing. It isn't just because they need to save their jobs. This is their last hurrah per se, but it's the fact that he's good enough. And as I just said, you could not play worse than Russell Wilson played last week. I know you said it's okay if he throws 3 picks, because it's helping his development at the end of the day. And here's the other side of it, because I went back and forth with someone that I trust very much in sports and whatnot. And he said playing him against the Chargers and not waiting a week to play against the Saints is going to stunt his development.
I hate that.
And it might derail his career because of one game.
I hate that.
One game he plays earlier. If anything, it's a better test for him earlier on in the season than playing against a banged-up, terrible defense. And the Saints, the Chargers, we're going to get to it, have one of the best defenses in the league. There is not a better time to start him, especially after what Russell Wilson did last week against the Chiefs.
Bryce, this is another one we're in lockstep. That was actually going to be the next point I brought up. The other negative people have mentioned is, well, why are you picking this week versus the Chargers? And I think you hit on something that's important. Well, why are you picking this week? Guys, we knew at the beginning of the year, and we tried to fight through it, and it's all about when you play teams, right, that the schedule is going to be really tough. Okay. So they don't play him versus the Chargers this week and just delay the inevitable. Oh, by the way, have the team's moxie. Well, how do you think Russell Wilson was going to do versus the Chargers defense? I mean, we saw him versus 2 of these teams that aren't good defenses so far, right? Or are good defenses. So that's part of it. And then, okay, well, then give him the soft landing spot versus the Saints. All right, devil's advocate here. Do we all think that Jaxson Dart probably is going to have a couple moments where he makes mistakes in his first ever start? Yeah, I think so. I'm optimistic that the team gets like an electric surge supercharge from it, but more on that later when we give our picks or whatever. Isn't it better for him? And isn't it better for the team if Jaxson Dart's first action goes out there versus like a really tough defense? He takes his lumps if he has to, go through the mistakes, and then he gets to operate in his first full week as a starter after playing a game to go watch the tape, see what he did, and then the weak, quote-unquote weaker opponent in the Saints, he's actually more well-prepared to play? Isn't it a worse scenario to start Russell Wilson, score 9 points, have the team lose, name Jaxson Dart the starter? Maybe you get that supercharge of beating the Saints anyway, but let's just say he makes a couple of mistakes that otherwise the team wouldn't make versus the Saints, and you lose that game, and now you're 0-5. Isn't that worse? I actually think it's better to start him versus the Chargers in that area. Also, off of that Saints game that's coming up in a week, the Giants will be on a short week versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Is it better for Jaxson Dart to make his first start of his career versus the Saints and only have 3 days recovery to get ready to play an Eagle team with a pretty freaking good defense? I know that their secondary stinks. Or maybe just get 2 games in a groove and then worry about the short week. And oh, by the way, for all the talk about how good the Charger defense is, after you play the Saints, if that's where you want them to start to begin with, you're getting Eagles, Denver Eagles. 3 pretty good defenses no matter what. So there isn't a soft landing spot, period, on the Giants schedule. So saying that, oh, why are you doing this versus the Chargers? And oh, by the way, I'm not disrespecting the Charger defense in any way, shape, or form. They are a good defense. Derwin James is awesome. Jesse Minter's doing a great job with it. Khalil Mack is out right now, and that's been really important to their defense, okay? Their pass rush, a little suspect. Look at the 3 games they've played that were pumping up their defense about. We just saw that Chief offense. That's who they played week 1 in Brazil. It is not the same offense right now without Rashee Rice, and Xavier Worthy got hurt in that game too, if you remember. Did the Chief offense look anything special versus our defense? They did not. It was Patrick Mahomes making a couple crazy plays. Week 2, they play the Raiders. Might be a worse offense than us in football this year. Heck, Ashton Genty doesn't have as many scrimmage yards as Cam Scatterbo. That's their star. Does that team scare you? And oh, by the way, Bo Nix looks like one of the worst quarterbacks in football right now. That's who they played last week, and Bo Nix is within 2 deep balls where he just missed by an inch of beating that Charger defense. Am I saying the Charger defense isn't good? No. All I'm saying is also take into account who they played. By the way, our offense hasn't been very good anyway, but just leave that where it may be. Stop worrying about it. Thirdly, Andrew Thomas came out of that game on Sunday healthy. Jermaine Illuminor is having an unbelievable start to the year at right tackle. Malik Neighbors is a top 5, if not the best wide receiver in football. Rookie quarterbacks rarely have perfect opportunities. Rarely do you get the Brock Purdy as a 7th rounder inserted into a 49er team that is ready-made, okay? Ready-made. The Giants, I know their offensive line stinks. You're getting quality tackles in front of him and a number 1 wide receiver in football. How much better an opportunity do you think there's going to be for Jaxson Dart to start? Like this, he's already, I hate to say this. Now, play calling get in the way, coaching get in the way. He's already set up for better success than Daniel Jones was in 2019. He is. I know that's hard for people to imagine because he was so beaten down. So that's just another long-winded way to go. Stop this. Like, anybody who's negative about him starting, what do you want?
Here's the thing, Shaun. Here's the thing. There's a lot of negative emotional sentiment attached to that take. These are people who, rightfully so, fed up with this Giants brass, the front office, with the head coach. They don't trust them. They don't trust Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen to do the right thing. So automatically, they're going to look cynically to any single thing that the Giants do. And this is something that they're doing right now. And it stinks of them trying to save their jobs. Like, I understand that we both see that. But at the same time, there's a bunch of other things at play here. This isn't just that. Now, I know I'm a broken record. I just said that. But there's just a lot of, like, it's emotional. It's not objective. This isn't, you're thinking with your heart, not your head. And I think at the end of the day, it's very easy to come out and criticize this front office. Very easy to, again, be very cynical towards any move that they make. But take a step back. Look at what people have said about Jaxson Dart. Look at the fact that he won that backup quarterback position outright. Look at that. We said that before the season. That's something that we wanted to see. Well, guess what? It happened. Jameis Winston didn't win. So that, and also, Jaxson Dart, as you said, you kind of stole my thunder. You took the words right out of my mouth. This is a pretty good supporting cast. You got an above-average offensive line. I know their stats haven't shown that, but Andrew Thomas is back, and we'd assume that offensive line is going to be slightly above average in the NFL. Of course, Daniel Jones never had an above-average offensive line. You got that. You got a top 3 receiver in the NFL, and you have a budding star in Cam Scatterbo. What else more can you need? And that is the situation that Jaxson Dart is stepping into. So we get it. We understand that the head coach and the GM are fighting for their jobs. We understand. But there are a multitude of other things at play here that I think outweigh the idea that they're just doing this to save their jobs. And it's very easy. I understand the frustration. I understand how pissed off people are, especially people like you and the older Giants fans that I've talked to, people that have witnessed Super Bowls in their adult life. They are fed up. They're pissed off with the owner, whoever they want to blame for this situation. So automatically they are going to doubt every single move the Giants make.
Yeah.
You know what? So what? So what? He's ready. And there's never going to be a better time for him to start after what Russell Wilson did last week against the Chiefs.
you're allowed to be negative about the Giants. Hell, they've beaten us all down. I'm not to any listener out there, and thank you for listening. This is One Giant Step, anywhere podcast available. You have every right to be pissed off at this organization. I feel like the life sucked out of you. Man, I woke up Monday morning after we had done this podcast Sunday night, before the Dart news, and I had true apathy for the team. I was like, man, this is weird. I usually wake up angry, and I even said in the podcast I was more angry at the Dallas game.
Yeah.
And the organization is just kind of beating the like, oh, how many times am I going to yell and scream about the same old with this team? I'm taking this in a different approach. I felt this way in 2019 with Daniel Jones. I know I felt this way about Eli Manning. By the way, I didn't want Eli Manning. I wanted to stick with Kerry Collins, right? Like I've had all these moments in my life. When you take a quarterback in the first round, there will be plenty of time, plenty of years, if things go bad, for you to yell and scream and go, what a mistake this was. What a bad pick. Fire this guy. Fire that guy. Like that happens. That comes with the territory. But there's also this other element of, dude, all the great teams in football hit on quarterbacks. It's a cycle. You got to hope you've scouted the right guy, drafted the right guy. When you hit, it's euphoric. And your life as a fan can truly change. We are set up for the first game in this Jaxson Dart era with that opportunity. It didn't work out with Daniel Jones. It did work out with Eli Manning. Nothing more, nothing less. The team brought in 2 veteran quarterbacks. They started one to start the year. They didn't just do the Zach Wilson thing with no competition and let him start. They've drafted that receiver. With the O-line, yeah, still needs help, but at least they have some stable tackle play right now if Thomas is healthy. Like, I'm excited. I'm excited because, to me, for the 2025 season, and we did this in the offseason after they drafted Dart, at some point, wins and losses do become irrelevant when you have a rookie quarterback, right? Like, they're already 0-3. So no matter what happens, I sat through all those losses with Eli until that last week of the year. I was there Sunday Night Football versus Dallas. You're not going to root for tank losses because they seemingly drafted their quarterback, and you're going to root for improvement in the and anything that happens on a positive with this kid, Jaxson Dart, is going to make for a fun ride and fun times. And when you have him, you got him. This isn't the same old, same old. This isn't wondering when Daniel Jones's contract's going to expire or when they could get out. This isn't, hey, Russell Wilson's only here for a year. How many games is he going to play? Oh, can he win this game? Oh, that was fun in Dallas. This is it, man. This is our future Dart, for lack of a better term. And that's fun, man. This should be for once, we should have a little excitement as a fan base. As excited as an 0-3 fan base could be, this is not the time to wonder are the Giants going to screw this kid up. If they screw him up, then you worry about it then.
Exactly.
He's allowed to be good, too. Like that's allowed. That's in the rule book. You're allowed to take a quarterback, and he's allowed to be a good player. Like that. That's also allowed, Can
it? Can it happen?
Yeah, it can happen. I think we forget it did happen with Eli Manning here.
Who knows? Yeah.
All right. So without further ado, let's spin it forward. Jaxson Dart starting. They're facing the Los Angeles Chargers of San Diego, as I like to call them. Chargers come in at 3-0. Jesse Minter spinning a good defense here. Justin Herbert's cooking a little bit. O'Marion Hampton, pretty good running back that the Chargers took. They did lose Najee Harris for the year. Khalil Mack is out of this game. Remember, they don't have their monster tackle, Shaun Slater, who is out for the year. They do have Joe Alt. This is a well-coached team, obviously, with Harbaugh. But it is also still a team named the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Chargers at many times throughout a season find a way to charger. And if you're looking for reason for optimism, it may just be that. It is a team in LA coming to New York for a 1:00 game off of 3 division games they've poured a lot of emotion into. Something to keep an eye on. Football can be weird. While you will have a stadium, I assume, Bryce, MetLife Stadium, I assume, last week when there's 30% Chief fans, first of all, there's not that many Charger fans in the world, period.
I'd say more. It looked like 40. It looked like 40%.
Maybe, whatever the case may be. There's just simply not that many Charger fans out there. Also, you would think, as excited and as juiced up a building. And I could have the wrong read on this, as Giant fans will have in a long time, just for the idea the guy they were chanting for a week ago is starting his first game.
I know.
Now, look, they get punched in the mouth early. You know the way it is. A crowd can get real deflated real quick. But at least the early goings, you would think this is going to be a highly energized crowd. There's going to be anticipation on Sunday mornings for most of us, all pumped up, pacing around. Can't wait to watch this guy play. So it's going to be a difficult matchup. We understand that. But look, the Giants, too, offensively, and you've seen this, and you've seen some of the film reviews that have come out this week, Bryce. Russell Wilson's connecting on deep balls. They ran the ball better, but the middle of the field, right? They're just not using it. Where are the slants? Where is, Theo Johnson, striving up the seam? this is an area where they hope Jaxson Dart can maybe play more complete quarterback where he's using all areas of the field. And therefore, maybe things are a little different. Maybe the run game gets going because of some of the read action stuff. So I'm excited to watch Jaxson Dart throw football too. The offense actually has a chance, maybe better is the wrong word, but look more dynamic with Dart playing. So I think all that's on the table. I'm pumped up for it. Before we get to fantasy versus reality, is there anything on this matchup you'd like to add?
I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there.
Is that right? Bryce in the house.
Yes, I'm going to be there. It's a seminal moment in Giants history, no matter what happens, for the better or for the worse. Either the Giants find their starting quarterback of the future or he sucks, and we go back to square one of wanting to tank for a quarterback. So I think it's an extremely important game. And again, seminal moment in Giants history, and I'm excited to be there. And this Chargers team, as we just said, is pretty good defensively, right? They have the best. We can get into this in fantasy versus reality, but they have the best opposing red zone percentage. Like they're like 24%, percent of the time, which is hilarious because the Giants can't score in the red zone. So add 2 and 2 together, that's a mess. And this Chargers team throws the ball a lot. The Giants secondary has been kind of iffy, and there are a multitude of different options that Justin Herbert has at his disposal. You look at Quentin Johnston, who's completely transformed his career after everyone thought he was a massive bust, taken in the first round a couple of years ago, sucked his first 2 years, and magically he's a better receiver. So there's a lot at stake here. There's a lot at play against this Chargers team, which is 3-0 in division, 3-0. And the Chiefs win to start the season. As you said, the Raiders, whatever. The Broncos have one of the best defenses in the league, and still Justin Herbert and the Chargers are passing for, I believe, the second most yards in the NFL. They run the ball less, and they run the ball a little less effectively. But Hampton is he's growing into his own. He could have a field day against the Giants. But I'm excited to be there, and let's do it. Let's do fantasy versus reality.
I love it. Okay, so my fantasy pick for this, I'm going with Cam Scatterboo in this game, man, because for a couple reasons. Obviously, the Tyrone Tracy injury out a couple weeks hurts. They're going to play some Singletary in the spot. But you cannot deny, by the way, as we're taping this, the Cubs take a lead on the Mets.
Oh, boy, I was just going to ask because I have a feeling you got that.
Yeah, it's 2-0 Cubs in the bottom of the third.
Brother.
Yeah, okay.
So brother.
That's real live podcasting for you. I have my eye on the baseball here. All right, I'm taking Cam Scatterboo. Why am I taking Cam Scatterboo? The Giant run game was better than it has been the first 2 weeks last week versus the Chiefs. And Cam Scatterboo, for better or worse, man, this guy refused to go down. Am I worried that he's going to get hurt eventually? Yeah, he's a total psychopath. Yes. But he's the hot hand now. And, the funny thing about a guy like Cam Scatterboo, who was so good in college at Arizona State, and I remember Amon-Ra St. Brown was like this when he got drafted. Guys like Cam Scatterboo that end up going on day 3 of the draft when they're one of the stars of college football, they keep mental tabs on the guys at their position in the draft that went before them. And case in point, Omarion Hampton, the first-round pick by the Chargers. You're telling me that in Cam Scatterboo's brain, he's not looking at Omarion Hampton from North Carolina going,
I don't think there's much going on in his brain.
Well, but I'm just saying, I know he's looking at this going, remember, the Chargers took this guy in the first round. I had to wait till day 3. Let me show you I'm possessed. Also, we see that through using a Jaxson Dart, it opens up some lanes for Scatterboo that otherwise didn't exist. And I also think that the Giants, I think, are really going to try to push establishing the run as much as possible to try to give Jaxson Dart in this game, as try to keep him out of 3rd and longs. And I think when they get in the red zone too, that's a big selling point of going to Jaxson Dart is how much better can the Giants be in the red zone. That's another Cam Scatterboo spot. I'm riding the Scatterboo bus right now, Bryce. I think that's my fantasy play. I think they're going to force feed him a ton. Doesn't mean everything's going to be pretty. Doesn't mean he won't get swallowed up for some losses, but I think he finds his way back into the end zone again on Sunday. Now, the reality for me on how the Giants can win this game, I'm going to, for the 14th time in this podcast, mention Omarion Hampton. Look, the Giants' biggest bugaboo is their run defense, although at times they drive you nuts not getting the sacks and some breaks in the secondary. Hardball teams are going to look to run the ball as much as humanly possible. The Giants can't get gashed for 200 yards on the ground in this game. They just can't. They can't make it a long day like this where it's just out of control and you can't stop the run. You gotta keep this team in 3rd and longs and allow your pass rush to try to get Herbert in some big games has been shaken by pass rush before too. You gotta get him in those spots. If Hampton does take over this game, it's just going to be a long Sunday for the Giants. To me, It starts and ends with, I mean, can this team have a little pride and stop the run? Can Dexter Lawrence, now it's week 4, can he not look out of shape here? Can he get this thing going? Yep. So to me, it's stopping Hampton with a fantasy play of Cam Scadaboo. It's Cam Scadaboo season. What do you got?
Yeah, I like Scadaboo, but my fantasy pick is going to be Theo Johnson. And if you look at rookie quarterbacks, they happen to trust their tight ends a lot. And who did Jaxson Dart trust the most in the preseason? Greg Dulcich.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tight end. And of course, he's off the team, but these younger guys, that's their safety valve. That's they do 3-4 reads and tight ends right there. They're going to throw to the tight end 5, 6, even 15 yards. So Theo Johnson, this could be a breakout game for him. I think no one will benefit as much as, like Cam Scadaboo. Like, I think this could open up a lot of things with the read option and all that. The benefits to having Jaxson Dart being able to run the ball. I think Theo Johnson is going to benefit an extreme amount. And I hope so, because he's someone who is just a massive guy. He's intangibly extremely talented. And he's someone who's raw and athletic. And we'd like to see more from him. We've been very underwhelmed from Theo Johnson. So I like that play. I doubt that you've got him rostered in anyone in your league. And this is as we continue to go on these podcasts. Like, this isn't who you play in fantasy. Maybe you want to take him in a prop bet here or there. I understand. So I like Theo Johnson. Now, the reality of this game, I tend to agree with you. You got to stop the run. Jim Harbaugh teams do run a lot, but this year they have not. Justin Herbert has been slinging the ball because he's got all these guys, and everyone's eating. Keenan Allen is completely revitalized his career here in year 12, whatever the hell it is. So I think that the Giants secondary is extremely susceptible to getting beat down the field. You look at these guys. Deonte Banks is playing way too much. That's another story for another day. You're not seeing enough of Cordell Flott, but I digress here. The Giants defense has gotten smoked. Their secondary has gotten smoked. Their front is able to get to the quarterback. They did it extremely well last week against Patrick Mahomes. So you got to look out for that. And for that reason, you just got to stop the run. And when they do throw it, because I think that Jim Harbaugh is good. It's like having Justin Herbert on his team with what's happened in the first 3 weeks. Like, the option to throw the ball is going to be looking at him like the Green Goblin mask.
Yeah.
He's going to be like, oh, you got to throw the ball. Like, look at the secondary. Oh, Herbert's got the second most passing yards in the league. So that could be, an option at play there for a Jim Harbaugh team, which, as you've mentioned, does not throw the ball as much as other teams in the league. But Giants secondary is atrocious. The run defense is atrocious. So it could be either or, but you got to dominate one part of that. You got to stop the run. You got to get to the quarterback. So dealer's choice. You stop one of those, going to help the Giants a lot in this game.
All right, it's time for a game pick. Here we go.
1 and 2.
We are 1 and 2.
We both got the pick last week, right?
The spread in this
6.5. I think I saw. Yeah.
I'm going to start by saying that I hate myself. I'm buying in at least for 1 week. I am. Here's the reason, man. And this is so stupid, and I understand it's stupid, but it's the truth. Football is a funny game. And look at the Browns and the Packers last week. Like, there are just certain times that don't make sense, but you could point to the signs of why things don't make sense. I don't know how many games Jaxson Dart's going to win this year. I really don't. The schedule's brutal. But the Giants, at some point along the way this year, because this happens every year even with their bad teams, they're going to upset a couple teams. They are. And the Chargers playing 3 straight division games to start the year. And now doing a ho-hum trip across the country to go play a 1 o'clock game versus a team that, let's be honest, from their perspective, stinks. They also basically have very limited tape as to what the Giant offense is actually going to do non-vanilla related in preseason with Jaxson Dart. And I do think that Jaxson Dart is going to use portions of the field, or at least keep his eyes upfield on certain plays where the pocket collapses and he looks up, where Russell Wilson was kind of scrambling, taking those sacks. Like, I think that part of the Giant offense is going to exist in a better way this week. Yeah, I think the Giants are going to get grinded up at points on the ground in this game. Yeah, I think Herbert's going to make a throw or two in this game. But I kind of think the Giants, behind an impassioned crowd, are going to give you a big effort. And I think Jaxson Dart's going to make a couple plays late in the fourth quarter of this game. So I'm going to take the 6.5 points. And I'll be damned, Bryce. I think the Giants are going to win the game Sunday. I do.
I hope so, man. I hope so.
It doesn't mean like pretty, doesn't mean, oh my God, look up, it's 35-14, like nothing like that. But I think they're gonna score more points than you think. I think Younghoe Koo is actually gonna make a couple kicks, a little redemption story. And I think the Giants win the game 27-24. Something wacky and crazy.
You're telling me the Giants are going to put up the most points this season against the Chargers?
Yeah, I am. And I think that because here, can I just kind of paint a long-term picture for you? Because I've lived this life as a Giant fan.
Go for it.
The Giants last year upset the Seattle Seahawks without Malik Neighbors on the road in Seattle. I don't know if you remember that game. They had beaten
whatever happened there.
They beat Cleveland in week 3, and they got through 5 games at 2-3. And they entered a Sunday night game with the Bengals that Andrew Thomas got hurt in, where they played hard. And we were thinking to ourselves, wow, we're going to have a season at 3-3. Like right around this time last year, we were talking about that. I kind of see something familiar unfolding. The Giants do get a first win on something that nobody sees coming. And all of a sudden for a week, everybody's really calm. And Jaxson Dart is the belle of the town and the belle of the country. Like people are like, wow, look at this Jaxson Dart. How fun is he? Then the Giants will go beat the New Orleans Saints, and they'll be 2-3. Well, all right, Jaxson Dart's revitalized the season. And then the Giants will play a home game on Thursday night versus the Eagles. And you mark my words. I'll talk myself into it. Giant fans will talk myself into it. We'll start saying how the team is different with Jaxson Dart. And, oh, my God, can this guy beat the Eagles? And they inevitably won't. And they'll lose a game like 30-13. He'll throw a couple picks. And then the team will be 2-4. And they'll go to Denver. And we'll start having all these questions again. Like, to me, I picture the next 3 weeks kind of going like that. So, look, the Chargers are a good team. The Giants should lose this game. There's a good chance I'm going to be wrong here, and they will, and they're going to be 0-4, and we're going to talk about the positives of Jaxson Dart. Like, I totally get all that. So if you want to throw tomatoes at me through the screen, if you're watching this on YouTube, like, I get it. But my guttural instinct tells me the Giants have the big upset on Sunday. They go beat the Saints, and we all have the pom-poms out only for them to get deflated and depleted by the Eagles in week 6. That's where I'm at, Bryce.
Very, very specific prediction there. We got multi-week premonition here from Mr. Morash.
It is. Before you make your pick, because I don't know where you're going, I painted that picture. Does that seem that far-fetched, knowing Giants football?
No. And listen, I said this last week. Obviously, I root for the Giants week in and week out because I'm a Giants fan. But at the end of the day, I want this team as relevant as possible so we have content continuously throughout the season. And the season's not over by week 8 or week 9 when everyone tunes out. I want people to be locked in. I want more eyes on our product. And I want more people not completely dejected over Giants football, which tends to happen every year besides 2022. I think the Giants lose this game 23-16. The Chargers barely cover here. Jaxson Dart looks competent. He looks competent in the first half. He makes a few big plays early. He gets the hopes of all of us fans at MetLife Stadium, the absolute dump, up for that first half. And I think you're thinking, what do we have here? Is this different? Is this finally going to change? Our fortune's finally going to change. In the second half, the Chargers, the better coach team, are going to prevail because that's what teams that have good coaches do. They win. Jim Harbaugh, his teams win.
Why do you keep calling him that, by the way?
What do you mean? I can't pronounce his
Harbaugh. Well, you can't call him Harbaugh. He's not a gummy bear.
Harbaugh. I can't. I've always struggled with that one. But yeah, Harbaugh. I can go. I can't do it. Jim's team is. I'm telling you, like these well-coached teams, they win. They just win, and this is going to be that type of situation. We don't trust Brian Daboll. This team is going to fall apart at the end of the game, and we're going to be having these same questions. Is Jaxson Dart held back? Daniel Jones is probably going to win another game, and then they're going to compare the two. Oh, Daniel Jones keeps winning. Is it the same situation here with Jaxson Dart? I think that is going to spiral into something. There's going to be a domino effect, and eventually we'll get to the point where Jaxson Dart is the future of the Giants as quarterback, but not with Brian Daboll as the head coach and not with Joe Schoen as the GM. So I think the Giants lose this game by 7. They score 16 points against a very solid defense. Jaxson Dart looks somewhat competent, but they fizzle at the end. And the Chargers just barely cover that line of 6.5 there. All
right. So either way, we think at least close game no matter what. And we'll be back once Bryce returns from MetLife Stadium on Sunday, hopefully with a win, to recap it all here on One Giant Step. At Bryce Gelman on Twitter and X. Go find him. Go buy him a beer. He's underage. At Shaun Morash on Twitter and X. Thank you to everybody. Enjoy the start of the Jaxson Dart era. Hopefully it's a fruitful one. Thanks for taking one Dart step with us.